Welcome to the Six Figure Business Mastery Podcast, where every week, Kirsten and Jeanne dive into the essential topics to fuel your business growth. From copywriting to course creation, mindset to video marketing, they've got you covered. Tune in for expert guest interviews on all things marketing and business, and learn how to work on your business, not just in it. So, get ready to unlock your business potential and take it to the next level.
So welcome everyone to our newest episode. I am thrilled to have a special lady with us today. Her name is Whitney Hahn. Her company is Provoke Better, and she is on a mission to help small business entrepreneurs grow their business while outgrowing their busyness. I love that. So welcome to the show, Whitney.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk about protecting your Me-conomics to grow your economics. Do you want to introduce what your Me-conomics are?
Well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs understand their economic drivers, the thing that makes them have a profitable business instead of a very expensive hobby. And what I found in my own journey as an entrepreneur is that often in the pursuit of those economic drivers, we can lose sight of the things that really matter to us, the reason that we started a business in the first place, the reason that we're willing to hustle long days or over the weekend, sometimes at least. And we can often get further and further and further away from that stuff that's at the core of us in pursuit of the economics. And so a few years ago, I said, that's nonsense. This is not what I got into business to do. I realized I had actually started to build a business that I ended up resenting because I wasn't in touch with my Me-conomic drivers, the things that really matter to me. Because I think that no one at the end of their life is going to say, you know what, I wish I'd spent more time at work. I heard years ago from an entrepreneur, it's great. I just work a half a day. I work 7 days a week, but only a half a day. And it doesn't matter if it's the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours. And I was like, okay, wait, this should not be funny. This should not be reality. But I think hustle culture has really lied to us about what it is like and why that's important as an entrepreneur. I think particularly for Americans, we have romanticized the always on entrepreneur, this always hustling, always grooving person who unfortunately can sometimes leave a wake of poor health, bad relationships, debt behind all of that in pursuit of this culture, this hustle culture. And I don't think we're doing entrepreneurs any favors by perpetuating that myth. I think it's incredibly destructive, short-term and long-term.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it messes with like your everything, your physical body, your mental capacity. We just can't keep going for 20 hours a day and expect to do quality work and expect to kind of fulfill those things that we got into the business for.
I mentioned a few moments ago that I had built a business that I ended up resenting because I wasn't aware of how to build it in a healthy, sustainable way. And I don't just mean financially with those economic drivers, but the Me-conomic drivers. And that started to change in a very dramatic way for me in 2018 when my spouse was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis. And that same year, my sister was diagnosed with lymphoma. Now, it shouldn't take two people that you love in life getting very serious diagnoses for you to reevaluate what you're doing and how much time you want to spend with them, how present you want to be for them, how much flexibility you really do or do not have in your schedule. But that was the turning point for me because I realized I did not, in fact, have as much flexibility as I wanted to have. I did not have as much financial cushion as I wanted to have. I did not have processes in place and people empowered to do things without me. If I stopped working, revenue stopped coming in. And so that really became when I said, this has to stop. It's going to stop now. It's going to go easy. It's going to go hard, but it's happening. And that's when I started to focus on the Me-conomic drivers and understanding the levers that I really could pull in my business to allow for the life that I wanted to have. And it was no longer about pursuing some kind of made up an economic benchmark. I'm going to make $1 million this year. I'm going to have $1 million business or a $5 million business, or I'll have so many people employed. It wasn't about that anymore. It was about how many times can I say yes when my sister says, can you take me to a doctor's appointment? It's all day till we drive and do the appointment and come back to the major hospital systems that we live near. Or how many times when mom says, hey, we're coming into town, can you get some tea with us? I want to be able to say yes. So these became some of my Me-conomic drivers. And I was tuning in my business to support them rather than the other way around.
Oh, I love that. How would you recommend people do that?
I'm so glad you asked. I have an exercise that can help you with this. In fact, I'll put it on a page just for your listeners at provokebetter.com/6figures. And the Me-conomic exercise first asks you to think about life without boundaries. The classic, you have all the time and all the money that you want in the world. Think about three things, and you write three different lists. All the experiences you want to have, if time and money are no object. All of the growth that you want to have, and all of the contributions that you want to make. So you spend 5 minutes, more or less, on each one of those lists. Just stream of consciousness, write it all down. And then you cage fight the answers, right? So if you can only have...
Cage fighting was involved in this.
Cage fighting, yes. This is the only aggressive part of the process, I promise you. But cage fight the answer. So on my experiences list, for example, I said I want to have an electric car. I want to own a house by the lake and be able to kayak when I want to. I want to be able to travel with my spouse. I want to be able to take care of my parents. All the things, right? And when you cage fight them, what you're doing is saying, Whitney, if you can only have the house by the lake or travel with your spouse, which one do you want? Okay, I want to travel with my spouse. All right. If you can only have, and then you graduate that one to the next round, you can only have travel with your spouse or own an electric car. Which one wins? Travel with my spouse. And so very quickly across all three lists, you see the things that really matter to you rise to the top. And you have your priorities, your Me-conomic drivers listed 1, 2, and 3. At the end of that exercise, my Me-conomic drivers were have a joyful marriage, be able to support my parents as they transition in their life, and build a business that could run without me, in that order. So I never sacrificed my parents for my business. I never sacrificed my spouse for my parents. But I realized in doing this exercise that when I'm optimizing my business so that it could run without me, right? Processes, people, systems, simplification. I'm optimizing it for time, not just revenue. When I'm able to do that, the other two things at the top of the list become easier. And so that is how you do, and the exercise is in more detail on that page that I'll set up for your listeners. Don't chase the revenue at the cost of your health, your relationships, etc. Some of those other things that are really important to you. And it's going to be different for everyone, right? I just don't want you to ruin your relationships, your health, and regret that at the end of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a few things that we're big believers in. And that's initially when you become an entrepreneur, most people, you've created a job for yourself.
Yes.
So like you said, it doesn't run without you.
And it's not sexy, but I tell you what, the outcome is very, very sexy. So as a result of this journey that started for me in 2018, I changed business models completely in 2021. And last year, not only did I have 6 figures in personal take-home compensation for myself, but I took 6 weeks of vacation, including an international trip with my spouse and an international trip with my parents in the same year last year. And I rarely worked more than 6 hours a day to get all that done. So it is possible to go from that business that you've built that, sorry, you don't really love anymore, to something that really supports your life instead of depleting it. It can happen.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Including what they're saying no to. And as a lifelong people pleaser, that one was a huge one for me. To be able to say no early and often so I could say yes later and equally as often. A friend of mine say no more often so you can say yes more fully.
Ooh,
and I think
that's
a great expression, a great way to think about it. So think about what you're saying no to so that you have a bigger yes, something that's more important to you later on.
I love that. Okay, so Whitney, from what I understand, there are 3 questions you can ask your team to see if you're actually the problem. What are those questions?
Tough love is still love. And sometimes we at the head of the company, we're the ones that are needing to hear the tough love. I was just reading a study in Harvard Business Review, for example, about paid time off and how so many Americans leave PTO on the table every year. They just don't take all the time off that they're due, including the entrepreneurs, the person at the head of the table that needs the most refreshment in some ways. And the number one reason was because they just didn't feel like they needed to take time off. But the number 2 reason was, I don't want to put my colleagues in a poor spot because I'm gone. I don't want them, right, to have to work harder while I'm away. We don't have a standard operating procedure, a recipe, if you will, that you can hand to somebody else to make them as successful as you are at a certain task. At the head of the organization, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, you need that time off just as much as everybody else does, but sometimes you're the problem. So here's what I want you to do. It's the problem. The next time you're out of the office for even a 3-day weekend, you take a long weekend, 3-day, 4-day weekend, heaven forbid it's a whole week, but do this when you get back. You ask 3 questions. So question number 1, what absolutely came to a stop because I wasn't here, usually points to authorities and access. You couldn't get to the bank account, or you didn't have, no one else in your organization could get to the bank account or had authority to do something while you were away. Question number 2, what happened but was wobbly because I wasn't here? This may be, well, you like to have final approval on the work before it goes out, or we weren't sure how to handle the scope change, so we made our best guess, but we weren't positive about it. So the wobbly things that happened anyway while you weren't there usually point to standard operating procedures or training opportunities. And the final question, and this is usually the one that surprises people and is the tough love question for the entrepreneur, is what actually happened better because I wasn't here monkeying around with it? Although we have the best of intentions, sometimes we are the problem. And so this is a chance for our team to give us a review and say, you know what? Sometimes you come in at the 11th hour and you make changes, or you have some grand gesture, you've got some late idea that is well-meaning, but it really messes us up. Please don't do that. It actually went better when you didn't do that. Or sometimes you hold our hands too much and we're actually capable of this part of the process, this part of the delivery service, this part of whatever it is. And it went better because you weren't here, and we could step into our growth zone and gain some confidence in a new area for us.
I love that. That is fantastic. I especially love the last one. What went better without me?
Yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, you employ people or you outsource to people because they have talents, and because we work with a lot of VAs from the Philippines, and these are amazing people. They're young people. They're excited. They're ready to learn. They want more responsibility. And so it's so fun to give them more and more responsibility and see them step up. And they're so gracious. It's so fantastic. So we forget that keeping it to ourselves and being the final answer is taking it away from them in some way.
It is absolutely taking it away from them. And ultimately, it hurts you, because then you are not able to leverage your own time and resources in a way that supports your life instead of depleting it. You're only hurting yourself with this destructive behavior. So give your team the opportunity to be radically candid with you and tell you if you're the problem, because often we are, and we just don't see it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Well, we have our team meetings. We always say to them, if you see something that can be done better or more efficiently or in a different way that works better for you, tell us. Yes. Because you're the one doing the job. So you are going to have more exposure and you're going to see where the faults are or what's missing. And, we can help you with that.
That's a great practice. And I hope you get a lot of people really leaning into that and giving you those suggestions and saying, I'd like to try it this way instead. I'd like to remove that step. Sometimes we overcomplicate things. We build in more steps than are needed. And they're like, we wouldn't really lose quality if we lost these 2 steps. Let's delete them and see what happens.
Yeah.
What a great practice for you and your team. Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Sometimes it's progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
Whitney, this has been so fantastic. And I so appreciate all the tips that you've given our listeners. I know they're going to be able to walk away from our conversation learning more about themselves and learning more about their business.
Well, thank you. I really hope so, because I want people to be able to have a business that they're proud of and that they feel is really supporting their Me-conomics in life, not just the economics they built the business to try to fulfill.
Fantastic. So your resources are at provokebetter.com/6-figure, SIX figure. And everybody will have to go there. We'll put it in the show notes. So you could just click on it and go there because there's some great resources there. So last question, Whitney, how would you like people to reach out to you if they want your help in implementing their Me-conomic?
Well, if you're on the website, you can easily hit the contact form. I'm also really active on LinkedIn, so that's a great place to connect with me, send me a message there, and set up a phone call to see if there's something that I can help you with. I'm not the right person for everyone, but for those that are, we can do some really cool work, help you grow your business while you outgrow your busyness.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Whitney, for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, it's really my joy. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Six Figure Business Mastery Podcast. If you enjoyed listening to this episode and you are ready to leverage video marketing on all online platforms, or maybe even start your own video podcast, then you need to check out the Done For You and Done With You program at themarketingvaadvantage.com and take your business to the next level.